Humans. This species is short, creative, stubborn, decently intelligent, and individually are weak, yet in numbers are incredibly hardy, robust, and strong. They breed quickly, live short and futile lives, and for the smallest of reasons will kill each other without a second thought. Many have had low expectations of this brutish and barbarous species. They were beneath us more than any other race in terms of culture, art, technology, and social programs, so while their least desirables were worked hard and rewarded little, their aristocratic counterparts flocked to the heavens, eager to join the thriving extrastellar community. Naive to the structure of galactic politics, the Terrans would push themselves onto whatever race would lend counsel to their primitive auditory communications. Many left them to their own devices, shamelessly and rightfully leaving them to the harsh realities of the spacious home we all find ourselves in. We Centauri, however, were one of the handfuls of groups that would barter and negotiate agreements with the vermin. We'd trade scraps, derelict and tattered starships, agricultural equipment, and even environmental stabilizing technology to them. The barbarians had done more damage to their home planet than any other in the recorded history of intelligent species, for resources worth many hundred times more than what they were worth. Far be it from us to take advantage of a prime workforce for our resource collection, we did so with a slight amount of smug enthusiasm and deception, pretending to be allies, yet giving them the worst treatment in regards to trade agreements and our gifts of knowledge. The true irony of it all being that they willfully accepted these downsides under the pretense or furthering intergalactic diplomacy, and with promise of showing others that they were willing, able, and trustworthy. I suppose to this end, the humans had formed a special bond with our insectoid race. We were advancing their civilization at least 100 of their puny years forward, while reaping almost every possible benefit we never deserved. Little did we understand the error of what we had unwittingly done. In retrospect, we had broken the cardinal rule of the galactic community. Without proper diligence, disregard for foresight, and without consulting the Galactic Council, we planted a seed of unrivaled growth in a yet unproven and undeserving race for our own benefit. Their bipedal skeletons with their undeveloped brains relentlessly honed in and trained themselves to grasp the underlying concepts of the machinery and electronics they acquired far faster than any one particular group had ever thought possible. Foregoing the advantages of biological engineering offered to them, they preferred to keep to their fleshy forms for the sake of preserving humanity. This was a line of logic that still confounds most everyone to this day, would prove invaluable as supremely effective to them. Their primitive minds would conjure outlandish and ridiculous notions of the fine fabric of reality that our enhanced nervous systems would outright deny for the sake of simple logic. All soon learned that the human brain, for all of its faults and inefficiencies, was a marvel of creativity of the greatest caliber. Their stubborn nature defied every law of the universe, always amassing new theories to test, more experiments to perform, never allowing no to dissuade them. They'd work a problem from every possible angle in ways which seemed like pure folly. The most damning thing of all being that sometimes they'd be right and completely shake the foundation of their scientific collaboration. This was the true nature of humanity. To stop at nothing once they had set their collective mind to a task to either prove it true or deny it as a falsehood. In the breadth of 2 short Terran lifetimes, they had mastered the art of manipulating what they called dark energy, which we know as the cosmological repulsive law. 50 years later, they had travelled as far as the innermost galactic core, to be noted a suicidal trek that only the desperate would engage in. 10 years after that, they began to mass-produce antimatter on an unparalleled scale. Ocular spiracles turned, attention drifted from the inane squabbles of their own to the insane human populace as they exploded instead of trickled from their solar system to neighbouring stars. They stripped every unclaimed world they touched, or whatever the soil or atmosphere would allow to them, only to further accelerate their growth that would rival the great empires that now are long gone. From this, the Galactic Council became unnerved. The Terrans spreading across their own backyard, they exponentially started to make headway into the secrets of the universe that, as of yet in this entry, few others had breached. Due to our friendship of centuries gone by, the humans have had nothing but a peaceful, amicable, and symbiotic relationship with us, the orchestrators of their advance. They would begin to catch up to our own level of technology and understanding, yet untempered by the wisdom of age and experience. With exponential growth, they'd overtake us in almost all things. In recognition and gratitude of our dealings with each other, they shared their advances with us, and us Centauri would happily share what we could without question. We had become one of the most intertwined and mutually beneficial allies of the entire galaxy. To be sure, the Council saw all of this as nothing but heretical. They dominated the galaxy. They had every other race under their thumb, as the humans would say. To advance beyond what they deemed appropriate was nothing short of chastising a god in the minds of other species. In the past, they had sent probes to the Terran homeworld called Earth, attempting to dissuade them from advancing too quickly. The Council, in their vast superiority to any other, never allowed technological advancement of any species beyond what they were comfortable with. They had the power and means to enforce these rules to any and all in the core worlds, and wouldn't likely give it up. They offered admittance to the alliance the Council controlled, but as such, they would need to adhere to many laws that stunt quick growth, and only sign off on research or they would allow. In return, trade lanes would be opened up to Sol and her watery rock. They would gain a seat on the Council and would be defended from whatever plight may come to them. They even brought schematics for a neural implant that would allow the humans total access to logical ways of thinking, bringing everlasting peace to their kind. The only downside was they'd have to put aside creativity in favour of being taken care of. Humanity saw this for what it truly was. It is the same reason we denied the Council as well. It was an insidious mean of control. They would have none of it and destroyed the probe that sent this message as a final "fuck you" to the galaxy. Through fear and just a hint of jealousy at their willingness to deny the Council, our two species would soon become scorned, the community of the Milky Way lashing out against us for bringing such an unknown variable unto them all, and by proxy, the Council. Due to the Terrans living on the very fringe of the galaxy, outside the arm of influence of the Council, many of our worlds and star systems were razed to but bitter molten metal. Billions of us Centauri laid exterminated for a crime we committed in swift and brutal sieges. Over a century, we retreated behind the line of the humans. This is when their virtues of acceptance of those not of Earth finally became one of their most endearing qualities that we Centauri would never forget. This is when we embraced the humans as much as they had for us. As hard as it was for us to leave our home, they did their absolute most to find and terraform planets for us to settle on. Looking back, we actually did so little for them that it is disgraceful to us. In our graciousness, we worked as hard as we could for them. Still, they would never allow our kind to feel such inadequacies. When our exoskeletons started to buckle, they would find us non-physical labour. When our nerve buckles became overwhelmed with our duty, they would force us to take it easy and rest. Many who would read this would think that we had been forced to work, that in return for asylum in their territory, we'd break our appendages toiling for them. Nothing could be further from the truth. We, as a species, were so honoured by their acceptance and open arms that we felt indebted to quite literally work ourselves to termination for such unabashed camaraderie. Terrans, however, would surprise us yet again by allowing us to rebuild our society, with New Xenthix being only 7 light years away from Earth. Their territory was our territory. Their homes were our homes. During these times, they knew a force to be reckoned with would be coming. Preparedness became paramount. War was inevitable, and their distance from the outer core worlds gave them the time they needed. Breeding increased with incredible speed. Mining of entire star systems became the norm. Construction of dreadnought-class starships began, with the newest weapons brought to bear. The Terrans then took the brunt of the force as the Council's forces advanced. Nearly 1/4 of their outer colonies laid waste in an effort to quell their expansion. We did what we could, given the vast resources the Terrans allotted to us. Working side by side, our now small numbers laboured until our carapaces would no longer allow, or until we were forced to stop. Before this log continues, I should note a particular unnamed humanities scholar who once quoted, "Conflict breeds creativity." Creativity, as a human construct, was its defining characteristic millennia before their journey to the stars, yet would prove most valuable now more than ever for them and ourselves. Within 15 years of the first Galactic Armada advance into their territory, their population exploded, nearly threefold when their political structure began, Terran and Centauri propaganda. Within another 10 years, the now 8.4 trillion humans have finished constructing fleets of unrivaled scale and destructive power. Their speed of breeding, construction, harvesting, and innovation became that of legend. Over the next 50 years they held their ground, training every new combatant with the skills necessary to operate every basic facet of a starship, with us Centauri being trained and taught alongside them. Again, they be at the forefront our own advance. The Terrans never let up, and never let us fall behind in terms of education and brotherhood. Obliterating every last ship that dared to face them, they then sent a second and a third wave of ships to reinforce the line. Over the next single short year, they breached the front lines of the Armada. Their natural chemically enhanced minds from adrenaline during battle would serve them well enough to laugh in the face of death and not even feel a mortal wound from combat. From there, 100 years later, they had pushed into the heart of the Council's core worlds. Over the next 200 years, they would either conquer, obliterate, or force a surrender of any species that stood in their way, while chartering peace treaties with those who had stayed out of the war and putting the Centauri at the highest echelons of non-Terran politics. The ban on research was abolished, and a new age of enlightenment and technological might exploded throughout the galaxy. We had done comparatively nothing for them. We never served their interests until they were beyond us. We gave them the worst trade deals in the early years, and we thought nothing of them besides mere apes. Their own ingenuity would have brought all of this to the same end regardless of our intervention. Now, while the Milky Way stands as a united and prosperous whole, dominated by the lowly humans, we have only a single thing to say. Terrans are beyond horrifying, but are the best of allies. Woe be to any who stands against them. Karnetegel, first in the order of the historical records.